when we not only talk about working with robots, let's also talk about the combination, the cyborg, human machine. We are human machine. As you said, the cyborg, he says, I am technology. And I can see this a lot, like people saying, when they address actually to their phone, they're saying, I'm low on battery. This is already the sentence saying, I'm kind of a cyborg. Do you think that a lot of, the question goes to all of you, do you think we would see more cyborg, more artificial intelligence integrated in our lives, like you showed this one implementing of ships? Do you think that people would accept that?
Well, it's perhaps like always when new technology appears, it's a little bit being overdone in a first way. So I think having this chip parties, as they've been announced, seems to be a lifestyle and seems to be something cool or seems to be nice.
Like a Botox party.
Yes, a little bit like that. And I think
it's happening.
And I think in a while perhaps we find our balance with these new technologies, and I think it may be a little bit like that. But nevertheless, technology comes closer, and it's a provocating thing to say that I am technology. But even if I don't say it, I think this example with a cell phone makes true that when we say we are low of battery, this shows that our language has merged with technology, and this is something which may be true for all of us. Even most of us never think of implanting a chip or being a cyborg, but nevertheless, it affects us.
I think it affects when you show the Aibo, the Japanese dog, that they really go on cemeteries and bury them instead of recycling them. Wouldn't that be much more efficient to recycle robots and use that again?
Well, efficient with death is something really difficult. And if you say you have an emotional relationship, then it really becomes difficult. And this is what I wanted to show, that as soon as you have an emotional relationship and if you have a companion, you have a new kind of dimension that you have to think about.
Elias, could we see some of those animals even much smaller and going into nanorobots?
In principle, yes, but I think it still takes some time. It's really hard to make things small. So we work on this many times. So if we look at the butterflies, or the electronics are already really small. But especially in nanotechnology is still quite far away for me and for Festo. There are some projects in the world, in universities, where you can see how really very tiny robots do something, but very often they need power from externally, for example, or communication from externally, and have not implemented it inside the robot itself, which we always try to do. Yeah, I think in the future we will have this. The drone we have seen already in the video before was already really tiny. I think this is right now maybe the limit. If you want to make it really smaller, then it needs probably more and different changes regarding batteries and calculation power, things like that.
But would you see use cases for it?
Yeah, if you watch enough science fiction movies, there are a lot of use cases also for really tiny robots that go into your blood system and bring medicine kill the somewhere cancer there. Cells. I think there are a lot of applications thinkable. Yeah, why not?
Yesterday we already had a lot of questions from the audience actually regarding your panel. So I want to open this to the audience. Do we have any questions? And I think there's the first one, Brigitte, the lady in the Turkish jacket, please. The microphone to her.
Thank you very much for the input this morning. So my question is addressed to the scientists as well as to the business and industrial members of the panel. And it is a question related to responsibility. So who is responsible when an accident happens with a cobot? Is it the electricity provider, the battery, the people organizing the AI, the people training the cobot, the self-training of the cobots? From a human perspective, who is responsible? Who is responsible from an insurance perspective? And And how does the de-learning of these happen when the cobots are training one another, like we see with the connected cars? They train one another that there is a pothole in the road, for example.
Very good question, but a really hard question to answer.
Should I start? So actually, I think it is in a way similar to all the other technologies we have seen over the last years, cars, planes, all kind of machines. First of all, we do everything what is possible in order to make these things as safe as possible. So there are norms and there are a lot of rules that you have to follow in order to make a robot a cobot. This is the first thing you have to do. So there are institutes, Fraunhofer for example, they do a lot of testing, what would happen in case of collision and how strong these collisions can be and things like that. And then the insurance or Berufsgenossenschaft, I don't know the English word.
How do they call that? Union?
I don't know. They actually, if something happens, have to figure out was it a mistake of the machine or misused by the operator. And this is similar like with every other machine that you usually use in this field.
Yeah, I see you nodding.
You didn't address the topic of hacking.
Okay. A cobot does not have to be in the internet necessarily. Yeah. So if we think about future, then probably everything is connected and everything can be hacked. Sure. But in principle, a cobot right now is just a robot that is able to work together with a human, and it does not have to be connected to a bigger net actually that can be hacked. So this is, for example, in industry, all the robots and cobots, they are not right now, most of them are not connected to an open net. But I guess actually everything, also in home automation, everything that has the ability to do something dangerous to you can be in principle hacked. Difficult question. I don't have a real answer.
I guess it's
right
also
now.
like a lot of scientists saying autonomous driving is already possible, but we can't address or we can't answer the questions of safety, and that's why it's not here yet. Not only talking about 5G and that the network is not there without latency. It's actually they're saying we can't answer those questions of who is right and who is wrong when there's an accident. Who should the car avoid to kill, the kid in the car or the person in front of the car?
May I add something? For this reason, I think this is a very good question because it also addresses that it's not only technology which has to be solved, but linked to every technology, these are the circumstances, so the legal positions, the ethical positions. So today we have more than just technology, but we have all these surrounding fields which also have to be answered before a new technology can be really approached.
I hope that answers your question. There's another question there in the audience.
Yeah, regarding Festo, I saw on the website that you also use brain-computer interface, or at least experimenting with it. Can you tell something how advanced it is? Is it still in an experimental phase, or are you trying to use it in real applications?
So up to now we don't use it in real applications. This project was made in 2013, I think. And at this time we investigated this technology and tried if it would be possible to control complex tasks just by using the brain-computer interface. But at this time, at least, I can say it was not really possible. We were able to switch a light on and off and move something from left to right and opposite, but we were not really able to have quite control precise movements or complexer tasks. So we stopped it at this time. But as a concept, I think it's always interesting for us, how can humans and machine interact? Can they use speech control? This is already easily possible. Gesture control, also possible and can be used quite often. Brain interface control would be probably the next step, but up to now I think it's still quite complicated.
Oh, well, they're saying that Elon Musk is working on that and will, connect all our brains. As we are at the Beyond Festival, I have to address this question to you. I guess you've never been to the Beyond Festival?
No.
Well, it's also a really philosophic and artistic way that we think here. And I want to ask you the question about consciousness. There are scientists in artificial intelligence who are saying at some point artificial intelligence, robotics, will raise the level of their own consciousness. What are your thoughts on that? Could a robot become like what we see in science fiction, the iRobot, or the other human?
Actually, I don't know. I think it's possible once, but I cannot predict any date on the horizon when it will happen. Actually, I don't know. Absolutely.
That is always my answer.
And I think this addresses also a point where we see very often, when we see, for example, the robots from Festo, they are quite impressive. And people, when we see such impressive pictures, we project more into these things. So we see them walking, and the next step is that we suppose that they can also do this and that, and perhaps we overproject them, and perhaps because we have consciousness, we also think, because they can a lot of things, we also think that they can be conscious. But I think this is really, really a far step, and at the beginning, I think it's quite impressive if a machine can simulate personality, so can express to be angry, or can express to be happy in a sensitive way, so that people say, well, it seems to be intelligent, and the machine seems to be happy, but actually it's a quite wide step to simulate happiness or simulate emotions and to have emotions. And I think this is really a really fast step.
Mm-hmm. Like you showed the smiley on Simon with Astro Alex. This is actually IBM Watson, right?
Actually, I don't know. I think as far as I've seen, or the sources that I've seen, these were provided by DLR. It
is IBM Watson, because I was speaking with this guy who's in charge there. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's just a chatbot. It looks like a chatbot, and it can smile, like this things that you can see here at Code 2. You go to this virtual mirrors, and they smile at you because they mirror you.
Yes, but I think just smiling or just showing this interaction wouldn't be sufficient for a cobot. So I think the most important thing is really to recognize when assistance is needed, and to switch on when the machine thinks that it is needed, and to recognize the intentions and also the states of the user. I think this is the most important thing.
But that also means that the robot is always listening, because when it knows when to switch on, then it actually has to listen all the time.